It takes just one sentence to change everything. One moment in front of the cameras, one slip of the tongue, and suddenly your entire career trajectory looks different. For Dillon Gabriel, the Cleveland Browns rookie quarterback, that moment came before he'd even had the chance to prove himself on the field. He wasn't under center in a primetime game. He wasn't delivering a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. No, his defining moment came at a press conference, with the lights glaring and the microphones hot. Standing there with his shoulders squared and his voice steady, Gabriel said the line that detonated across the NFL like dynamite. "I see a lot of myself in Tom Brady." Now, if you're a veteran with a Super Bowl ring, a line like that plays as confidence, swagger earned through scars and victories. If you're a young starter who's already shown flashes of greatness, it reads as ambition, big dreams backed by some evidence. But if you're a rookie who hasn't even played a full NFL game yet, that's not swagger, that's not ambition. That's a meltdown waiting to happen, a PR nightmare in cleats. And almost instantly, that's exactly what it became. And before we dive deeper into how this single sentence spiraled into chaos for Gabriel and how it quietly handed Shedeur Sanders the keys to the Browns, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a like if you love stories like this. Because the NFL doesn't just deliver highlights, it delivers drama, disasters, and twists you couldn't script if you tried. The NFL isn't just about football. It's about narrative. Every player carries not only a playbook, but also a story, a reputation, a brand. And in a league still haunted by the towering shadow of Tom Brady, the 7-time champion, the 2-decade dynasty, the quarterback who turned pressure into performance, Gabriel had just written himself into a script no rookie wants to star in. The delusional upstart daring to compare himself to the untouchable. Within hours, the quote was everywhere. Every NFL rookie faces a moment where the spotlight feels a little too bright. Some stumble over cliches, others dodge questions with rehearsed lines, and the smartest ones say almost nothing at all. Dillon Gabriel chose a different path. He went big. Too big. When he stood in front of reporters and said, "I see a lot of myself in Tom Brady," it wasn't just a quote. It was a spark dropped into a room full of fireworks. Because in this league, names carry weight. And Tom Brady's name, that's not just weight, that's gravity. It pulls everything into its orbit. Championships, dynasty, greatness carved into stone. You don't casually place yourself in that same sentence unless you've already edged your own legacy into the history books. For context, Gabriel hadn't. He wasn't a proven starter. He wasn't even a lock for QB1 in Cleveland. He was a rookie still trying to learn the playbook, still trying to earn the respect of his teammates. His NFL resume was thinner than a preseason stat sheet, and yet, in just 6 words, he invited comparisons to the man who defined quarterback dominance for an entire generation. The reaction was instant. Within minutes, clips of the interview flooded social media. Twitter timelines turned into battlegrounds with fans clowning the rookie, posting memes of Gabriel in Brady's jersey, and tagging the Browns in sarcastic posts about finding their next GOAT. By lunchtime, ESPN segments were already dissecting it, with graphics comparing Gabriel's college stats to Brady's NFL dynasty. Podcasts latched on. Talk shows made it their headline. What should have been a routine rookie media appearance had turned into the story of the day. And the thing about NFL narratives is this: once a label sticks, it's nearly impossible to peel off. Gabriel wasn't the rookie with potential anymore. He was the guy who thinks he's Tom Brady. That became his identity overnight. And in a league obsessed with perception, that's a dangerous place to be. But here's what most people missed in the chaos. This wasn't just about a bad quote. It wasn't simply a rookie letting confidence spill over. That one sentence cracked open something deeper, something the Browns had been trying to keep hidden. A quarterback competition that was already razor thin suddenly tilted. A locker room that was divided suddenly had a reason to pick sides. And the quiet presence of Shedeur Sanders, who hadn't said a word, began to grow louder by the hour. Because in the NFL, silence can be louder than bravado, and Gabriel's words had just given Sanders the perfect opening.
If social media was the spark, Stephen A. Smith was the flamethrower.
By the time First Take rolled around the next morning, the sports world had already laughed Gabriel into meme territory. But Stephen A., he didn't just pile on. He turned the rookie into a headline that would haunt him for weeks. On live television, Smith leaned into the moment with his trademark mix of outrage, disbelief, and theatrical precision. He didn't say Gabriel was ambitious. He didn't even say Gabriel was misguided. He called him delusional. That single word cut deeper than any joke on Twitter. Because when Stephen A. says you're delusional, it doesn't sound like playful banter, it sounds like a career obituary. He questioned not just Gabriel's judgment, but his grasp on reality. It wasn't framed as a rookie trying to be confident. It was painted as a young player who doesn't understand how the NFL works. And that, in the eyes of fans and executives alike, is lethal. Smith's rant went nuclear. He mocked the idea of a rookie comparing himself to the greatest quarterback ever before he'd even played a meaningful snap. He exaggerated Gabriel's confidence to the point of absurdity, saying it sounded like Dillon had claimed he'd cured cancer and taught LeBron James how to dribble. The set roared with laughter, the clip went viral, and suddenly it wasn't just fans dunking on Gabriel, it was the most powerful voice in sports media setting the tone for how the world should see him. And here's the thing, for once, people weren't even mad at Stephen A. Usually, his rants split the audience, half entertained, half exhausted. But this time, the audacity of Gabriel's comment was so over the top that most people actually agreed with Smith. His theatrics didn't feel excessive, they felt justified. That's the danger of becoming Stephen A.'s target. When he's right, the narrative cements. He framed Gabriel as reckless, cocky, and out of touch, and the league swallowed that version whole. The result? Instead of being remembered as a rookie with raw talent and upside, Gabriel was stamped with a new identity, the quarterback who compared himself to Tom Brady before throwing a single NFL touchdown. And no matter what he did moving forward, that was the label fans, analysts, and even his own teammates would see first. But the damage didn't stop with the media. If the outside world was mocking Gabriel, the inside world, the one that really mattered, was shifting too. Because while Stephen A. scorched him on national TV, something even more dangerous was happening quietly inside the Browns building, a locker room beginning to lose faith. If Stephen A. torched Gabriel in public, the Browns locker room froze him out in private. Inside those walls, perception matters even more than outside. Veterans don't care about memes. They don't sit around watching First Take. What they care about is trust, accountability, and respect. And the second Gabriel compared himself to Tom Brady, he lost a piece of all three. The mood shifted almost overnight. Teammates who had been cautiously optimistic about the rookie started giving him side eyes in team meetings. The playful banter dried up. Conversations that once included Gabriel suddenly continued without him. In a place where silence can speak louder than words, Gabriel was now hearing plenty of it. And then came the contrast. While Gabriel was fending off questions about his comments, Shedeur Sanders was quietly doing the opposite. No press tours, no bold proclamations, just work. In film sessions, Sanders leaned in, scribbling notes, asking sharp questions. In walkthroughs, he kept his voice calm but firm, commanding the huddle with a natural ease that didn't need to be announced. Coaches noticed, teammates noticed, and slowly a shift began. This wasn't just about one bad soundbite anymore. It became a referendum on leadership. Who could handle the weight of being the face of the franchise? The brash rookie who invoked Brady before proving anything, or the composed quarterback who let his actions speak? Reports from inside the building painted the picture clearly. Veterans started gravitating toward Sanders. A few even pulled him aside, quietly telling him, "This is your time now." That kind of moment, the passing of trust from vets to a rookie, isn't written on the depth chart, but it's as powerful as any official announcement. Meanwhile, Gabriel was left stranded in a strange limbo, not benched, not cut, not demoted on paper, but stripped of the momentum he'd carried out of camp. The excitement, the QB1 in waiting energy that once surrounded him, gone. In its place, doubt. Quiet, heavy doubt. And here's the cruel irony. Gabriel thought invoking Tom Brady would elevate him. Instead, it created a direct, brutal comparison inside his own team. One quarterback chasing a legend with his words, the other building trust with silence. One rattled, one grounded, one shrinking, one rising. The Browns didn't say it publicly, but the shift was undeniable. This wasn't Dillon Gabriel's team anymore, at least not in the hearts of the locker room. In the NFL, talent gets you in the door, but perception decides if you stay. That's the brutal truth. You can throw the tightest spirals, run the fastest 40, or light up a preseason highlight reel. But if the league decides you're reckless, immature, or unreliable, your leash gets shorter by the second. And Dillon Gabriel, with one misplaced sentence, just yanked his own leash. Think about how quickly the narrative changed. A week earlier, Gabriel was the promising rookie with upside, the guy Browns fans whispered about as a potential future starter. He had momentum coming out of camp, coaches praised his energy, analysts highlighted his arm talent, and even in his mistakes there was optimism. He was the underdog worth watching. Then came the Brady line, 6 words, and just like that, the optimism curdled into doubt. The underdog became the punchline. Instead of headlines about his potential, the media pumped out think pieces about his ego. Instead of being framed as confident, he was branded cocky. And the worst part, once that label sticks, it follows you. Every misstep becomes evidence. Every missed throw in practice, every awkward moment in the huddle, every strained look from a coach, it all gets magnified under the microscope of perception.
Gabriel wasn't just battling defenses anymore. He was battling an image of himself that he had created. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders was benefiting without lifting a finger. Every time Gabriel was mocked, Sanders' silence looked wiser. Every time Gabriel defended himself, Sanders' restraint looked stronger. Gabriel was drawing attention. Sanders was earning trust. And that's the kind of contrast that reshapes a quarterback battle faster than any stat line. Because here's the thing, the NFL doesn't just crown quarterbacks for their throws. It crowns them for their presence, for how they carry themselves when the lights are the brightest and the noise is the loudest. Gabriel tried to crown himself by invoking Brady. Sanders let others crown him by showing composure. And if you look at NFL history, this is a pattern. For every quarterback who talked their way into hype, there are 3 who lost the room before they ever had a chance to prove themselves. One bad perception, too arrogant, too distracted, too fragile, and the league doesn't wait around. It moves on. That's where Gabriel suddenly found himself. Not as the guy with a clean slate, but as the cautionary tale. The "don't be that guy" example future rookies will hear about in media training sessions. All from one quote. That's the terrifying power of the NFL spotlight. One line can build you up, or it can bury you. And for Dillon Gabriel, the burying had just begun. On the surface, the story was simple. Dillon Gabriel said something outrageous, Stephen A. Smith blew it up, and Shedeur Sanders quietly slid into the spotlight. That was the media version, clean, digestible, dramatic. But the reality inside the Browns building was much messier. Publicly, the team played it safe. Coaches talked about evaluating all options. Executives downplayed the controversy as just rookie nerves. Beat reporters framed it as just another bump in a competitive quarterback battle. To the outside world, the Browns were calm, controlled, steady. Behind the scenes, the walls were shaking. Ownership had already started leaning towards Sanders before the Brady fiasco. They liked his poise, his pedigree, his marketability. The Gabriel quote didn't just confirm their suspicions, it gave them the perfect excuse to accelerate the shift. What could have been a season-long quarterback duel suddenly turned into a one-man audition. Meanwhile, the coaching staff was split. Some believed Gabriel could recover, that the mistake was more about youthful energy than arrogance. Others weren't so forgiving. To them, the Brady line wasn't just a bad quote, it was proof he didn't understand how to navigate pressure. And if a rookie can't handle microphones, how would he handle a collapsing pocket with Von Miller sprinting at him? The locker room. That was the real battlefield. Publicly, no one was going to say a word. No Browns veteran wanted to be quoted trashing their own teammate. But privately, the whispers grew louder. Some players rolled their eyes every time Gabriel walked into the room. Others started sitting closer to Sanders in team meetings. Respect is currency in an NFL locker room, and Gabriel's bank account was running dry. The media, of course, only saw the polished version. They ran with the Browns' talking points, highlighted Sanders' maturity, and painted Gabriel as the rookie who needed time to grow. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was the team had already started pivoting. They were reshaping practice reps, adjusting depth chart rotations, and even reworking PR messaging to spotlight Sanders. That's how perception works in this league. What fans see on TV is the surface. What happens in the meeting rooms, the hallways, the huddles, that's the reality. And in Cleveland, the reality was simple. Sanders was in, Gabriel was out. But this story wasn't just about two rookies fighting for a job. The Gabriel quote had cracked open something even bigger, a conversation about identity, leadership, and cultural perception in the NFL. And what happened next would make the fallout even more explosive. The Dillon Gabriel saga wasn't just about a rookie talking too big, too soon. It hit something deeper, something the NFL has wrestled with for decades but rarely addresses out loud. Who gets called confident and who gets called cocky? Who's celebrated for swagger and who is punished for it? On paper, Gabriel and Sanders were equals. Two rookies, both unproven, both fighting for a shot at the same job. But the way their stories unfolded revealed a sharp divide. Gabriel made one bold statement and was instantly branded reckless, delusional, out of touch. Sanders, meanwhile, gained respect by saying nothing at all. And here's the landmine. Race and legacy are always lurking in the background of these narratives. Sanders, the son of an NFL legend, carried a name that already commanded respect. His quiet demeanor was framed as leadership, his silence as maturity. Gabriel's confidence, on the other hand, was framed as arrogance. The difference wasn't just about words, it was about perception.
This isn't new. The NFL has long wrestled with how quarterbacks are judged not just by their stats, but by their personalities. A fiery outburst from one player is passion. From another, it's immaturity. A bold statement from one is confidence. From another, it's delusion. Fans, media, even executives may not admit it, but those double standards are there, shaping careers in real time. Gabriel didn't just stumble into a PR nightmare. He stumbled into that cultural landmine. His words didn't just make people laugh, they made people question who he thought he was allowed to be. And once that narrative takes hold, it's almost impossible to rewrite. That's why this story spiraled beyond one rookie's bad quote. It became a case study in NFL identity politics. Who gets the benefit of the doubt? Who gets second chances? Who gets labeled the next Brady versus the next cautionary tale? For Gabriel, the answer came quickly. He was the punchline. For Sanders, silence was enough to make him the chosen one. And that contrast says more about the league than it does about either quarterback. But for Gabriel, the fallout wasn't just cultural or symbolic. It was career-threatening. Because once perception hardens, the only way out is redemption. And in the NFL, redemption is rare. So where does Dillon Gabriel go from here? Because in the NFL, a bad perception doesn't just fade with time. It follows you, shadows every throw, and lingers in every conversation behind closed doors. And unless Gabriel acts fast, his rookie mistake could calcify into his permanent identity. He has two paths. One is redemption. The other is irrelevance. The redemption arc. It's possible, but it's brutal. For Gabriel to climb out of this hole, he'd have to do something most young athletes struggle with: swallow his pride. That means standing in front of the cameras, not with swagger, but with humility. A simple admission, I got ahead of myself. I admire Tom Brady, but I haven't earned that comparison yet. I have a lot of work to do, and that's what I'm focused on. That kind of statement wouldn't erase the damage, but it would plant a seed. It would show self-awareness, the one thing people say he lacks. And from there, Gabriel's only hope would be to let his actions slowly rewrite the story. Perfect practices, flawless film sessions, no extra quotes, no drama, no slip-ups. Just quiet, consistent work. The problem? Redemption arcs in the NFL are rare. The NFL is impatient. Once the media labels you, once the locker room doubts you, the window shrinks. You don't just need to prove yourself, you need to do it quickly, before the franchise decides to move on. The slow demise. This is the more familiar path. Gabriel could choose not to address it. He could stay silent, pretend nothing happened, and keep trying to outplay the perception. But here's the catch. Every mistake he makes now, no matter how small, will be tied back to that quote. One interception in practice, proof he's delusional. One bad read in preseason, evidence he isn't Brady, not even close. Every error becomes magnified, every flaw confirmed. That's how quarterbacks disappear in this league. Not with a bang, but with a slow fade into irrelevance. They go from starter hopeful to backup, from backup to practice squad, from practice squad to cut list. And all along the way, the same sentence echoes. I see a lot of myself in Tom Brady. The question is simple. Does Gabriel have the maturity to choose humility or the stubbornness to double down? Because if he doesn't actively rewrite his story, the league will happily write it for him. And in that version, he's not the underdog, not the fighter, not the redemption story. He's the punchline. And meanwhile, as Gabriel's career teeters on the edge, Shedeur Sanders' path grows clearer by the day. The less Gabriel redeems himself, the stronger Sanders looks without saying a word. While Dillon Gabriel was busy defending himself against memes, debates, and viral soundbites, Shedeur Sanders didn't have to say a word. He just kept showing up. Every great quarterback earns trust in one of two ways: by dazzling the world with highlight plays, or by commanding quiet respect behind closed doors. And Sanders chose the second path, and it worked to perfection. In film sessions, he wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but when he spoke, everyone listened. In walkthroughs, he didn't force himself into the spotlight, but teammates naturally gravitated toward him. He didn't need to declare himself a leader. His composure made it obvious. That contrast was impossible to ignore. Gabriel was the storm, Sanders was the calm. One rattled, one grounded. One chasing validation, one letting validation come to him. And in a league where trust is everything, it was Sanders' silence that spoke the loudest.
The Browns organization saw it. Slowly, the PR machine started shifting. Social media posts began to feature Sanders more prominently. Beat reporters started dropping subtle hints about his maturity, his pro-ready demeanor. Teammates started echoing the same message in interviews: poise, leadership, readiness. None of it happened by accident. It was the franchise preparing the public for what they already knew inside the building. Sanders wasn't just competing for the job anymore. He was the job. And here's the most dangerous part for Gabriel. Sanders never had to clap back. He could have, with his name, his charisma, his platform. He could have taken subtle shots, played into the drama, maybe even mocked Gabriel's quote without saying it directly. But he didn't. He stayed quiet, dialed in, and let the contrast speak for itself. That restraint made him untouchable. Gabriel was fighting the media, the locker room, even himself. Sanders was fighting no one. He was simply working, stacking credibility day by day, rep by rep. And in the NFL, that's how you steal a franchise without ever throwing a punch. By the time preseason rolled around, the shift was complete. On paper, the Browns hadn't officially named their starter, but in reality, everyone already knew. Coaches trusted Sanders, veterans believed in him, ownership backed him, and the media,
They were already writing the redemption story, not for Gabriel, but for the Browns, finally finding their leader. Shedeur Sanders didn't win the battle by talking. He won it by waiting. And in a league where narratives can destroy a career in a single sentence, his silence turned out to be his greatest weapon. The Dillon Gabriel saga wasn't really about one rookie and one bad quote. It was about everything the NFL runs on: perception, timing, and control. In this league, it doesn't matter how strong your arm is or how fast you can escape a collapsing pocket. What matters is how you carry yourself when the lights are the brightest. Gabriel walked into his moment with words, not results. And the second he compared himself to Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever lace them up, he skipped the journey and went straight to the destination. That's not confidence, that's hubris. And in the NFL, hubris doesn't just get noticed, it gets punished. Shedeur Sanders, on the other hand, showed the opposite. He didn't need to prove anything with sound bites. He didn't need to invoke legends or manufacture hype. He simply stayed grounded, prepared, and patient. And in a league obsessed with narratives, that patience turned into power. So where does that leave the Browns? With one rookie quarterback who's already fighting to repair trust he never should have lost, and another who just became the face of the franchise without ever asking for the spotlight. It's poetic in a way. Gabriel tried to talk his way into history. Sanders is working his way into it. But this story isn't finished. The NFL loves a redemption arc almost as much as it loves a collapse. Maybe Gabriel humbles himself, silences the noise, and earns his way back. Maybe he doubles down and fades into irrelevance. Maybe this was just the first chapter of a much longer rivalry. For now, though, the scoreboard is clear. One rookie quarterback talked, the other one listened. And when the dust settled, only one of them came out looking like the Browns' future. So I'll leave you with this. Was Stephen A. right to go nuclear, or did he go too far? Can Dillon Gabriel ever bounce back from this, or has he already written himself out of Cleveland's future? And is Shedeur Sanders quietly the best thing to happen to the Browns since Jim Brown laced up his cleats? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's hear it. Redemption or downfall, confidence or delusion, savior or silence. And if you live for stories like this, the drama, the disasters, and the delicious chaos of the NFL, hit that subscribe button. Because trust me, this league always finds new ways to outdo itself.